product variant lift. Like
I
we're
know.
now to 2K plus. It is this glorious thing that people have pined after for a long time. There's still some caveats, obviously, as far as that goes, kind of type thing. But we're here. This
We're
is
here.
bigger than Online Store 2.0. Sections everywhere because this impacts everybody. So,
Yes.
what are your thoughts? Did you weep at your desk when you read the changelog announcement, or?
Here's my gut reaction. It's a brave new world. I hope we like the world that we've now begged for, that they've given us. It could be
I
a little insane. We'll see.
So I would agree.
Have you ever had issues with webhooks? Almost certainly you've had moments during Black Friday, Cyber Monday flash sales, or a merchant bulk operation that caused issues with your app. Hookdeck sits in front of your app as middleware to solve reliability, scalability, and observability issues with your webhooks without rewriting your stack. It's an alternative to AWS Event Bridge that preserves your sanity. Webhooks are automatically queued to protect your endpoints, and failed deliveries are automatically retried on your own schedule. Every webhook is stored in a persistent, searchable event log you can filter and replay by order ID or timestamp, and noisy duplicates are removed before they hit your processors. I've recently started using Hookdeck for my own app. For a minimal amount of work, I gain confidence that my app can handle whatever amount of webhooks Shopify throws its way. Hookdeck will send them to me at a rate my infrastructure can handle, and if something goes wrong, I can easily inspect the undelivered payloads and trust they will be resent. App developers like Gorgeous, UserLoop, EasyPost, SuperCycle, Rocked, and Penny Lane use Hookdeck to reduce on-call noise, avoid outages, recover from issues quickly, and ship with confidence. You can use it for free for up to 10,000 events a month, and you can be running in minutes since it doesn't require any code changes. Check out the description for more. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the next exciting edition of the Liquid Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Karl Meisterheim. With me, as always, the esteemed, the immensely handsome Taylor Page. Taylor, how are you this morning?
Carl, I'm doing great after always after your very kind intros. Like
I try to build you
so
up.
much better.
I know you at home you don't get as many compliments. I'm just kidding.
That's oh man, like you don't know the half of it, or
Oh man.
oh the but so it's been a couple weeks.
I
What
know.
have you been up to other than surviving the brisk Ohio weather that's now moved in? I feel like we made this aggressive and sudden shift from it was nice out to some degree to like fall is here, and it's brisk. I'm gonna
It's
say
been
brisk.
like sunny and 65. Right?
That's
brisk.
well, in the mornings it's a little on the chilly, and then in the afternoons as well. Like it's sunny and 65 for approximately 2 hours a day right now. Like right at the
you're
middle of
further
the day,
north.
and then it goes back. Yeah, I am a little bit further north. I guess that is true. So here, at least in the little bit of time that it takes to get further north.
I'll share two weather-related anecdotes for you since you asked. First one is I'm old, fat, and have low energy, so I try to work out, and I no longer pay to go to the gym because COVID shut that down. But I have an exercise bike, and it's currently on the front porch. And so I have gone from like sweating immediately to like, okay, I can wear a jacket now and exercise for a while before I have to take it off. Because it's like you said, it's like in the 40s in the morning now, which I don't mind. I kind of like it. But there's a point where you're like, okay, I have to come inside.
Yeah. My favorite pastime right now is like looking up, because we used to live in Springfield, Missouri, like obviously further, south and west there.
Yeah.
And so I just remind my wife like, oh, like this is the temperature now in Springfield. And she's always like, no, because it's obviously substantially different than from here. So, but I like the exercise bike. I have one. I sweat too much. I have to drape a towel over it. Because the bad thing about a stationary bike is you're stationary. And so it just...
Well, I open the garage door because your gym's in your garage, right? Open it up in the morning, get the cold air in, and go to town.
Yeah, it's the way to do it now. So this is part of getting into it a little bit with some of the personal stuff. So we got a puppy. I don't remember if I told you that, other than like threw it in the outline here or whatever. I don't think we talked about this the last time.
You mentioned it once.
Okay. So we got this puppy, and it's absolutely destroyed like any kind of like routine that I had. Like I had this nice morning routine where I'd get up, I'd work out first thing because I'm a morning person. I have the most energy in the day, like right at the beginning of the day, and I'm like a battery. It just like throughout the day it just drains, right? And this puppy has taken everything from me. that is a routine and everything. So it's been good. It's been fun, but it's the frustrating thing of having a puppy, and then trying to train a puppy while also you have smaller kids who are not always the best at being consistent with a puppy, and so then having to like go back and forth with that. It's been different for them. They were all about having a dog, and now they're kind of like, she nips and she jumps and she's kind of annoying or whatever. It's like, well, she's a toddler, man.
Right.
So
What kind of puppy?
all part of that. So she is a Bernese mountain dog.
I don't think there's many mountains in Ohio, Taylor.
They're not, but they're supposed to be really good with kids. They get to be really big dog. I love big dogs, and so like I'm pretty excited for when she's full grown. She'll be over 100 pounds. Like basically, we'll be able to put a saddle on her and let the kids ride her, around. Like she'll be a big dog. I'm excited about that. I love big dogs. But yes, so there's that.
Wow. But you're a better father than I am. My kids beg for a pet. I had pets growing up, and as an adult, it's like, no. Not going down that road. Not interested.
I'm just a dog person. I really like dogs. So, that's just always how it's been. So we had a couple of dogs. 2 dogs is too many when you have kids. So maybe you'd argue that 1 dog is too many when you have kids and whatever. But I did like us having dogs. And for a while, like my son was actually kind of like scared of dogs. I think he had a dog. One of our family members had a dog that wasn't as well trained and kind of like jumped up and knocked him over a couple of times. And so he was kind of like leery or pensive around dogs. And so, my thought was get a really big dog that can definitely knock him over as she gets bigger. But apparently I didn't think that all the way through, but it's been good for him to have that exposure, I think, just to like get used to being around them. So I really didn't want him to go through that. So, but enough about dogs. We don't need to
my
make
second
this
weather
a
anecdote.
podcast. Your anecdote. Okay, let's get back
I had 2
to
other anecdotes for you. Actually 3.
I'm sorry. I just got through the one.
It's okay. Second one was it was cold last night going to bed. And the way our house works, like the windows aren't great. They're new windows. But there's a certain time of year where we have to turn on a little, like a oil-filled space heater kind of thing just to keep the temperature in the bedroom because we're back in the back corner from getting too cold. And last night I was like, oh, it's getting chilly. I wonder if tonight I might have to start kicking this thing on. And then I didn't. But this morning I woke up and everyone's cold. My wife's wearing like a winter hat. Like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't seem right. And so I looked and like no one turned the heat on. So it was
oh no.
it's really cold. But the house is fine. I just got to turn the heat on.
Well, maybe that's my maybe I should make that my pick or whatever for later. But so our thermostat is one of those Nest ones. So you can just set it so there's like a lower and upper bound, and it will just dynamically kick on. And I rarely ever touch the thermostat ever. Except for to adjust to major seasons when you get used to like the really hot weather or the really cold weather, and I can be a little bit colder, it's fine, or I can be a little bit warmer, it's fine.
Well, she likes to keep the windows open during the day if it's reasonable, but sometimes that causes the heat to kick on, so I think she probably turned it off.
Yes.
And
yeah, and I love having the windows open. I get that. I'm also team open window, but then that's the problem, right? Like if someone forgets, like in the middle of the night or something, and it gets cold enough to like bring things on, you're like, oh gosh, you don't forget. You don't do I do the nightly sweep, windows and doors and everything or whatever.
I've got a little bit of OCD in me too. I have to check every ground level window to make sure it actually is locked.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which
I mean, I don't do that as much,
stupid, but the number of times I found a window that's half open or unlocked or whatever, I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll keep doing it.
Well, yeah, you got kids, man. Like you gotta do that, Just you're more vigilant than I am, or diligent about that. So,
well, the other thing too is
good for you.
Now we're really going off the deep end. I'm sorry, guys. I promise we'll get to Shopify here in a second. Taylor and I have important things to discuss first. I had someone over to fix our garage door a couple weeks ago, and he pointed out like I could break into any house on this block, and he showed me how he would do it through the garage, and I was like, oh, okay,
what?
Good to know. So I have to make sure the garage door is locked on the inside of the house, all that kind of stuff. So,
oh man.
The little things,
yeah. It's I don't know.
The last weather anecdote is yesterday, as you know, I took a day off my job and took my son for a hike. I've been trying to make it a habit to take him on hikes. And as a parent, you're like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. Because I, probably take him on 5 or 6 hikes now. But you stop and think about it. It's like, oh, that one was 5 years ago. That one was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
it's
it just
wild
goes
how
so
long
quick.
the time. Yes.
And
yes.
so
and
from
it's
his
good to have that
perception, it's like we
one-on-one
never
time.
go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you found that too, like particularly when you have multiple kids, just finding instances where you can have like one-on-one time with your kid. I'm always really surprised by that I've done that a couple times with my son who's a bit younger than your son, and it is always one of those things. He's like, oh, he enjoys it a lot. He might kind of be like annoyed we're doing it beforehand or whatever, but he ends up really enjoying it, and that is part of that. I think that some of that one-on-one time, not always easy to make sure you get that.
Yeah. But that's why we went yesterday, is because I watched the forecast, and I love fall, perfect hiking season. And when you get that confluence of like it's sunny, it's moderate temperatures, it's not super windy yet, and the leaves are still on the trees, like you got to go. And so I saw the day coming. I was like, I got to go. So we went yesterday.
Now, do you find, can your kids do like longer walks? We do neighborhood walks just because, like, hey, like you got to be active or whatever. And they're always like, growly, growly, growly or whatever. But if I take my kids on like a nature hike of some sort or whatever, they love it. They'll go for miles versus like, it'll be like dragging them for the 1 mile, but they'll do miles and miles on something like a nature hike of some sort, even if it's, whether it's a paved trail or a not as paved trail kind of type thing.
Yeah. They're pretty good about it. They talk a big game sometimes versus reality once you're out there. But I just learned, like, we drive an hour to get to some of the hikes around us, so it's a fair bit of driving. And then you go for 2 or 3 hours. That's usually about all they're up for.
Yeah.
A couple miles, probably 2 to 4 miles typically, depending on the park. And then we grab some to eat, and we're done. So
nice. You don't pack a picnic basket or something. Eat on the trail.
Depends where we're going.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in eating out. And my kids enjoy it as a treat too. So we try to build that into the day if we can.
Now, have you found it is less enjoyable to eat out the older that you get?
Oh, for sure. And I'll be honest, when I say eating out, what I really mean is I want to go somewhere and get a Diet Coke.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The food is optional.
Yeah, the food. Oh, wow. Okay. So that's I'm kind of the opposite. I would not go out just for a drink or get, whatever. I would just eat out. But I have found I used to love eating out so much, and now it's purely for convenience or, just time more so than anything. Because most everything else, like I'd rather just eat at home, or like I like how we make it at home better or whatever kind of type thing. So I think that's kind of interesting. I went from that thinking like, oh man, I could eat out for every meal to now I'm like, I'd really rather just be at home kind of type thing. Except for Taco Bell. That always hits the spot any time of the day. Oh. So
yeah, enjoy that. You got a few more years, you could probably handle that, and then you'll see.
Right. That's no.
Speaking of being at home more, I see something here about your softball season's wrapping up.
Yeah, so my daughter did softball for the first year this year, and then she did fall softball. They had like a smaller league for their community league. We haven't done like the travel ball team stuff yet. To you parents that do the travel ball thing, like, I mean, great. That's awesome. That just seems brutal to be traveling 3-4 hours away every single weekend or kind of type thing. So just community league softball. She's enjoyed it. She's really taken to wanting to be a pitcher. And so it's been cool to see her be like, we'll just be sitting around and she's like, hey, I'm going to practice pitching for a little bit. And so we got her like, a little net she could practice with at home, or her mom and I will go out and so she can do that. But so yeah, they had their little tournament. They won the first game, and then the second game they got whooped on by this other team that is made up of travel ball kids that just play in this league basically as their off season for the travel ball. So yeah, it's one of those things of, it's not a big deal, but it's been good. Like, she wasn't discouraged still. It's been cool to see the kids progress for that. So I've enjoyed that part of it. So yeah, no kids in sports anymore kind of type thing. At least for a little bit. They'll play some basketball and all this other stuff later, but we're in the lull, so we got our weeks back.
It's amazing how big of a difference that makes.
Yeah, weeks and weekends with kids and sports and stuff like that's really, really interesting. Because you go from being like, we have no time at all, to like, we have so much time in the afternoons now. Like, what do we even do?
Yeah, that's cool.
How about you? Have you've been up to the home projects and things of this nature?
Oh, yes. Never ending. So I can't remember what I've said or shared. People really don't care, I'm sure. Well, Karl probably cares, but no one else probably cares. But anyway,
For car
on our
cares.
unfinished basement, we finally added some electrical. So we have outlets
Yeah.
now, which is great. So I was able to move like a freezer and a treadmill that were kind of like jammed into like the one nice finished room of the basement into like the new part that's unfinished but bigger. And so that's freed up some space for my kids to play down there. But then as
Nice.
part of that, I had to build a wall for them to put a sub panel into for the electrical work,
Oh,
which
okay.
I watch a lot of This Old House kind of content. So it's like, that's a
Yes,
wall.
I love this old house.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I could totally build a wall. And I did totally build a wall. It was harder than I thought. It's a 6-foot section wall. It's not like the round boat. So I built that, got the
Mm.
electrical installed. And then my parents were in town last weekend. And so I had him help me drywall it because he likes to do kind of projects like that. And again, seemed easy. Mistakes were
Mm-hmm.
made, but the drywall's there.
Yes, drywall is so rough because like you have to keep coming back. There's only so much you can do, and then you have to keep coming back to it,
Yeah.
sand it back down, slather some more mud on it, like sand it
And
back
then
down, like until it looks somewhat decent. That's oof.
I was trying to plan ahead because the wall has the sub panel in it, and I had them oversize the sub panel so that we could in the
Mm-hmm.
future run additional circuits if we wanted to say add some electric heat down there or rewire some stuff elsewhere. So I was trying to
Smart.
think of how to finish the wall but also make it accessible so they wouldn't have to like rip huge holes into it anytime they wanted to add wiring to the panel. So on the
Yeah.
front face, it faces the main room. I did drywall, and the interior face, which is like a laundry little nook, I did paneling. The
Okay,
idea
there you
being
go.
that we would be able just to pop the paneling off the wall because I just put on some like finished nails kind of stuff or some brads.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that works out. Because I thought about it more, I realized the way I put it on there, it might be almost impossible to take down after the fact. I might just have to cut it anyway, but we'll see.
Well, at least paneling is easier to mess with and
Yeah.
replace than drywall. You're not having to patch holes and stuff like that. Or you just replace the sheet kind of type thing if you need to.
But the worst part about the whole project is like the weekend before I bought the materials, I had gone and taken the minivan and picked up some shelving. And I had taken all the seats out, and the shelving's fit in there great. Like, oh, I can totally fit 4x8 sheets in this minivan, no problem.
Yeah.
So the day I go get it, my son wants to come along. So we've got 2 seats in there, but I'm like, we could just put it on edge, slide it in between the 2 seats. It'll be fine. It was not fine, Taylor. We were in that Home Depot parking lot for a solid half an hour. We had 2 grown men come over and try to help troubleshoot the situation. And we finally, got some combination of my child safely ensconced in a seat, the drywall sort of bent around everything else, and the tailgate wide open for the 2-mile drive of shame home. So
I'm
but we
glad you
did
got it figured out. I was say no, you need that space. The nice thing about those minivans is like you can fit those 4x8 sheets back there, but yeah, you can't. Nothing else can be back there, unfortunately. So.
Well, the trouble was you don't realize the tailgate opening, like the ceiling of the minivan, kind of slopes down and that's where you get you because you can't do it on edge. So
Yep.
womp womp. Anyway, enough about personal stuff. You got anything else you want to share before we jump into the good stuff?
No, I mean, no, we can start jumping into the good stuff. That there's nothing wrong with that at all, kind of type thing. So, have you been working on like I wanted to ask you a little bit about the app. I know I had a couple of questions for you about the app in general. So, I'm curious how that is going for you. I've seen Kurt post more about it too a little bit lately. So that's cool.
It is very cool. So we've been working on this for a long time. I mean, I'm ashamed to say this, but we started like December of last year, and here it is mid-October.
Now, why are you ashamed of that? You shouldn't be ashamed. That's realistic, man.
Well, I guess so. I mean, let's be honest. I'm working on it part-time, very, very part-time, and I'm sure Kurt and Paul aren't focusing their full efforts on it either. And part of it is, starting out, it was a very simple idea, and it still is relatively simple, but when you start thinking about all of the things, for those that are just catching up, what it is, it's a free gift with purchase discounting app. Pretty simple, basic premise, right? Just make some things that you could kind of do in Shopify as a merchant, but not really well, easier. And at the heart of it, it's a function that discounts items, and then it's some JavaScript that handles putting them in the cart, maintaining that sort of stuff, and then it's an app that gives an admin interface over all that stuff. But as you dig into it, there's all these little edge cases, all these little niceties you want to present to the merchant. So it gets more complex as you go on, even though it's a very simple idea. So that's where I say I'm ashamed, because you get in some of these bro-preneur circles. I just made that word, bro-preneur.
Bro-preneur.
Yeah. Or you see people on and Twitter talk about how many apps are releasing whatever. It's like, oh, an MVP, I should be able to get that out in a week, right? But we're taking our time because and I'm interested in your perspective on this, Taylor. I feel like we are optimizing our entire approach to this thing to avoid negative reviews. And so we've even adopted the strategy right now. We decided we're not releasing the app before Thanksgiving because we don't want to run the risk that there's some bug that's going to tank something. Right. Which I get. But on one hand, it's like, wow, we're doing a lot of hand wringing over the possibility that someone might not like the app and what that could do to our ability to market the app. And that seems a little one-sided to me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing to talk about as far as like a little sidebar here of this saga, like as far as that goes. For the one, again, I will reiterate, I think it's very realistic when you're talking about a long roadmap for an app. I think there are, like you said, a lot of these bropreneurs who are just like, oh yeah, like I spun up like 10 apps in 6 months or whatever kind of type thing. And I'm just figuring out which ones are and aren't working. And that's fine, whatever. I mean, to each their own, but a lot of that's just marketing fluff and more comparison, like in general, because the reality of it is in your situation, like you said, Kurt and Paul's, everybody else is like, y'all are doing other stuff. And so it's not like a full-time, some of these people are just, maybe they got laid off at a tech company and they're taking that money that they got from severance or whatever and just like, using all that time to full out work all this time, or maybe they don't have any other obligations and all this other stuff. And so in general, I think it's realistic when you're talking about an app. Speaking as somebody who, me shamefully, like I've been trying to like work on this for longer than a year, and I have not yet really properly set aside the time to do a public app in the way that you have. So kudos to you, and I think that's realistic. The other part of that, being the concerned about reviews, I think this is the tough part of any kind of marketplace that you're working in, right? Like the App Store, or if you're a theme dev working in the theme store, whatever, freelancer who's on some kind of a jobs marketplace, like you have to be worried about reviews, like really, really worried about reviews. I think at a certain point, obviously, you just have to like obviously dive in and get into it. But there's a real issue with how easy it is to leave reviews, and how easy it is for somebody to essentially tank all your hard work when you are so early in the game. So I think it's a smart approach. And when we talk about like, it being on the App Store for everybody, like y'all are working with a couple of merchants, right? Like it's like an unlisted, the strategy that I hear from a lot of people is we're working with a handful of merchants. It's unlisted. So it's much more like one-on-one, like maybe like white glove kind of type service initially, just to really smooth out some of those rough edges. And then once you really have a really good product, you're still going to run into those instances where people are going to leave a bad review for absolutely no reason, but at least you're going to be much better prepared for a lot of those scenarios, having worked with a handful of merchants that you know and trust well enough to give you good feedback. And that's the strategy y'all are using right now, right? When you say that,
it's on the App Store, but it's unlisted, and we're recruiting beta users.
Yeah, I think that's super smart. That seems like to be the strategy for a lot of people, particularly when you are like investing a bunch of this time here in one app and you're not doing the bropreneur of like, I have the time to kick out six or 10 apps in these 6 months, and I'm just going to see which one of them doesn't like totally tank, and then I'm going to put more time into it and kill off the other ones. I think that is a strategy too for some of these like dev shops or whatever, where they can do that. But I think that this is a good strategy. Personally, someone who doesn't have an app on the App Store, if you're asking me, having talked to other app devs with what has worked, I think that this is a pretty not conventional, but like a pretty common strategy at this point.
Yeah. I toyed around with the idea. I kind of threw it offhand as a joke to Kurt and Paul, but I was semi-serious. Like, I wonder if a strategy that might be worth considering, although it seems wrong, is standing up an app listing, a public app listing, specifically for the sake of getting beta feedback and risking bad reviews, and sort of containing all that stuff. But knowing that you're going to really release the app under a completely separate app listing, so that you don't bring all of the negativity over there with you.
I mean, that's really interesting. There's nothing in terms that would be against that necessarily. You would have to potentially go through the reviews process over again, right? For a new app.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like the same app, but like how many of same types of apps are out there, kind of type thing. So I think that's really interesting. I wonder if anyone's done that.
I don't know. Or even like if you did it and you got a bunch of bad reviews, what if you just deleted your original app and started over with the listing, right? Same code base, maybe change the look and feel a bit. I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how that works
great idea
as far as
or
that goes.
terrible
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, so listeners, if you've made it this far,
That's
someone
right.
who has done this or knows why it's a bad idea, somebody say something about this, because I think
And
that'd be really interesting.
if you're from Shopify and you're listening to this, I just want to assert we have not done this. This was just a mental.
They're logging into your
That's
shop
right.
now to take a look in your partner dashboard, like, oh, okay, which
It
of
was a
these?
thought experiment to work around
It's-
this fear we have of bad reviews, but also the need to get like real world feedback on an app in an honest way
Yeah.
that won't set you up for failure for the rest of the life of the app because you pissing people off.
Well, how cool would that be though if Shopify even had that of like some kind of a beta flag where people, couldn't leave reviews, or it was separate from your actual reviews, where people knew like, hey, this is an app that's in beta. Like,
Exactly.
it's not going to be perfect. They're doing this, so like maybe you're offering it at like a reduced cost or a like longer free trial or something like this or whatever kind of type thing. Then you would eventually graduate to the full production kind of type thing or whatever. That'd be really interesting. But maybe
other
that's what people
places-
kind of think of the more one-on-one to get your beta users. That's an unlisted status.
Yeah, I think they could market it as like a cool thing to like early access to like some of these things. You
Yeah.
see it other places too, like even I know pragmatic programmers, if you buy technical books, they have a beta version. Like when people publish books, they'll sell it to you. They'll tell you that it's in beta. It might not even be finished yet, but you can still buy it, maybe even at a discount.
That's cool.
Steam, they have stuff where you buy games early, right? And it's still publicly announced that they're not finished yet, but you can go ahead and buy it and start using it with the understanding that it's not well polished yet. So I think like there's a precedent for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's a good thought in general. But yeah, I do wonder now, are people able to leave if it's unlisted? People can still leave reviews though, right? Or do you have to wait until it's public for people to be able to
I don't
like
even
request
know,
a review?
to be honest.
Oh, okay. We can ask somebody about that. I don't know.
Well, it's a good question
we can
because
find that out.
one of the features I just worked on was using the new review modal API and app bridge.
Yeah.
So that when
Okay.
people complete a certain action in the app, it now actually prompts them. It pops up the window to consider leaving a review at that point. So the
Very
beta
cool.
users will start to see that. I wonder if it'll actually work. We'll see.
Yeah, people, I think were pretty jazzed about that one. I have seen several people say like that's actually helped with getting more reviews. So I think that's really handy because it is a lot less convoluted than it used to be. I think they fixed a lot of those issues in general, as far as even there were lots of issues that we had early on with when they made a bunch of these changes to reviews, even getting a plus shop that's been around for a really long time to be able to leave a review on an app that we've been using for months, paying for months, using for months, and a shop app that's been around, plus shop that's been around for years. It was very odd. Where it's just like, you can't leave a review. It's like, why can't, like, this is the person you want to leave a review, that's crazy. So I'm glad that it worked out. But
one interesting learning that's come up recently from the beta program. So we had this beta user, and they were complaining because if the cart conditions were met for their promotion, they would pop up the modal offering the free gift for the user to select.
Okay.
And they would dismiss it, and it would keep coming back. It would make it so that, like, you would dismiss it. The JavaScript sometimes does a page reload because that's the only way we can really assure state across all these themes, right? It's not ideal, but sometimes you just got to do that. But then on the subsequent page reload, it would prompt again and show the modal. It's like it got to this point where it's like a denial of service, like you couldn't not see this modal. Right.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a problem. So we fixed that by adding a time delay. It's like, okay, like you can, as the merchant, set, like, I only want this modal to show every 5 minutes, every 30 minutes, if they dismiss it, right? If it's not eligible, it won't keep showing. But if it's eligible, they haven't selected the free gift, we'll prompt them to show, like, choose a free gift. But if they just, for whatever reason, dismiss it, don't want to see it right then, it will come back. That worked great.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll put a pin in that. I have a question about like, like, oh, I like it when someone does this. So curious if you explored that, but
okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
sorry.
What we then realized was that it was still causing problems because sometimes people want the modal back, or they didn't realize they had dismissed it, or this kind of thing, right? And so what we've done now is added what we probably should have done from the beginning, which is essentially like, we don't show the modal unless the cart has changed since they were last shown the modal.
Makes sense.
Which, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So that was kind of the lead. But all that to say, like, this is stuff that, I just wouldn't have caught if we hadn't actually gotten it in a real store with real people interacting with it. And that would have been terrible reviews because it was so broken. We just didn't realize it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Now, what I was going to ask it, what I was curious about. So the cart change and showing again, that's an interesting thought. Good in general period or whatever, like, because that's a pretty action specific instance or whatever. But I do like it sometimes because if there's a modal of any kind, I think I've kind of have this like reflex or whatever. It's like muscle memory to like, I dismiss it immediately. I don't even like read the thing, right? A lot of times, but you see just enough of it a lot of times where you're just like, oh no, wait, like maybe I didn't want that. And if you dismiss it, it's just gone or whatever, then you're like poking around the website trying to get it to happen again. So I really like it when it's turns into like a little button somewhere that's like affixed to the screen. So like you could do something like an icon with, a little picture of a gift or something like that. Maybe shakes every night, something like that. Some kind of indicator potentially that people could opt into to where they could, instead of like once it's dismissed, if they could go back to it, because maybe they've searched around for a little bit and then they're like, oh, like what's the gift thing or whatever. So something that they could basically show the modal again, like launch it until whatever action's been completed. So I like that UX or whatever a lot personally, just because, like I said, I think most people are, anytime you get a pop-up, like I'm not reading the thing at all, but obviously our brains are a lot quicker than our muscles a lot of times, and you actually can read it quickly, and so you like dismiss it, then you're like, oh shoot, wait, like I read that and processed it, but like I actually like turned it off already. So
well, that's a good idea. I've not run across that, but I like it too. And go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I said, I was curious if you'd explore that, or that could be a thing to do, because you could, add it back into the cart even as a message of like you're eligible for this or whatever. Dealing with carts though, as I'm sure if you've like messing around with that at all, like is a thing on the Shopify like app and theme like world or whatever. It is wild to me. We don't have something more succinct with that. But yeah, so you've got some stuff for that.
Well, this is my segue to you, which is I know we talked a little bit about Shop Info app, and you were asking like, from an app's perspective, like what would you want? What would be beneficial from a programmatic sort of access or anything? And I don't know, I have not looked into it, so maybe this is a solved problem, but it did occur to me like it might be really helpful to know at the app at runtime, like what theme am I dealing with here? In case you wanted to do some of that custom stuff, you need to understand some of the workarounds that might be necessary for specific themes in your code. So that was just an idea.
So the whole like app interacting with the cart, and that there's a billion different ways to do it. There's no standardized convention for dealing with a cart on Shopify themes and stuff like this or whatever, has been like a pain for a while. And that was one of the things that I was working with. So Harshdeep was working on a project for a while where he was using some of the data that I was pulling from the theme store as well to like quickly detect themes. And that was the idea kind of early on. And he joined Shopify since then. And so like he had other things that he had to work on kind of type thing. And that's totally understandable. But that was what I was reaching out to ask about other instances. So right now I've got some folks that are using it basically because they've built it into their support layer to where they quickly check the theme and then they pass on to their support team like, hey, this is the theme or what have you. They're able to then quickly see in a quick check, like, do we already integrate with this theme natively or do we know that there's a problem? So they have a list of like themes that they work well with out of the box and they don't need additional customizations, or they know, okay, like this theme's cart drawer, we have to do X, Y, and Z. Versus, there's a theme that, we've never actually had to work with this theme at all. So that's how some of these folks are using it now. And that was my thought as well, was trying to figure out a way where it could support app devs in that fashion, like the kind of information like you'd be interested in, because that's, from what I understand, a lot of people have to do. They're having to figure out like what's the theme, and then they've got custom logic that builds into like, all right, we have to do this for this cart on this theme or what have you, kind of type thing. So that's kind of, I guess, where I was angling at. I think I see the biggest issues there with apps and themes is usually the cart. Some apps do this really horrible thing where they just constantly pull the cart repetitively over and over and over, and like every 5 seconds or something ridiculous like this or whatever. And that's obviously not ideal for us to keep getting hammered on the cart just for an app to run. Kind of silly. So it'd be great if Shopify handled this natively, but at least that's not happened. It's not been a big enough problem for the longest time. And so I think pixels probably help to some degree, right? I don't know if you've explored the pixel world at all, but
Not
there
by
are cart
choice.
events around the pixel, not by choice, that we've had to. So I think that there's some interesting things to do there, but it kind of, a lot of it starts with a lot of theme or app devs now with just figuring out like, what's this theme? Because then we can run whatever custom logic we need based on knowing what the theme is.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, the grass is always greener, but I sit back sometimes and I see the stuff you're doing like, wow, Taylor's really knocking it out of the park. You've got some great synergy with the stuff you're doing. That app, you just keep adding stuff to it, keeps getting more and more useful. I think it's great. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Well, I'm glad that you think so. I don't think that I'm knocking it out of the park. So it's
It's a small park, but
it's a small park. It's T-ball, but that is, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, so I've only reinvested in like shop info more so lately, like trying to do a lot more with it because it kind of turned into a hobby that was just taking up a lot of time.
I'm making money.
And so yeah, just get the hosting bill paid for, you know what I mean? So, which I do have a paid user now. So that's kind of cool, but it's no, he's an SDA. Anybody in SDA gets it for free. They get access to all that stuff. I've told you this, Karl. I've told you this.
Taylor, I can't remember everything you say.
Well, it's not helpful when I do announcements that they're kind of long. I've shortened them up a lot too, but I know people just get tired of reading and they stop. So, that's my own fault. But so
Guilty.
yeah, no, as far as, trying to make some pretty big improvements there. And recently was working on trying to also detect like when it's Shopify headless, which is like a different problem to solve. But Ben gave me some ideas, Ben Sale from Shopify and stuff. So I'm revisiting that as well, because I think that's always really interesting for folks too.
It's nice that they would support that. Not to tell you to pound sand.
Yeah, it's still not perfect. Because obviously with headless you can do like whatever you want with how custom that can be. So it's one of those things, just working on trying to make it something worthwhile. So yeah, because at a certain point I'm like, I would really like to work on this, make it more of a thing. But also at a certain point I'm like, I just probably need to focus on a Shopify app instead, right? Like that's what we should all be doing. We should all be building Shopify apps. Everything's going Shopify apps. So
I know you don't like to really promote yourself or it necessarily on the podcast, which I don't agree with. I think you should. But what is your ultimate purpose? Like, who's the audience is targeted at? What are you hoping they see as far as the value from it?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it started off just as like a way to learn Rails, because I've always aspired to be Rails? At that level. What's that?
Have you now learned Rails?
No, I use AI probably too heavily I use AI to teach me to use Rails with a lot of this stuff. So it's been interesting. Great. Even the things that I've pinged you on of like trying to figure out like how to send automated emails and like all this other stuff and what have you. And, so a lot of these things are really interesting, like doing it from a Rails perspective and then using AI for that. AI works really well with Rails because just it's so mature, right? So there's a lot of conventions and things that you can follow in that regard.
Some say it's the best framework.
Some say it's the best print. Some do. So as far as, so it turned into that, something kind of like a tool we built for ourselves, and then a release kind of like, oh, like this could be helpful for merchants, to something that was just like, I'm spending a lot of time on this, particularly when they like exploded the theme store to like, there's only like less than 300 themes and now there's 900 plus, because they included presets in that. And so finding the information out became all the more interesting. So it's mainly, I think at this point now, like the casual user is like a merchant who's just like interested in like, oh, like what's my competitor using or whatever. I think they think that's interesting, versus probably like devs, agencies and those sorts of things. I've got some other plans for it to like roll out to make it more of like a research type tool, where you can actually use it to make good recommendations for shops. I think some agencies too, like they'll use like this the same theme over and again. I think that's great too. But as far as, the way that I approach themes with merchants is usually I'll figure out like what functionality it needs, like if I have a design, like where they're going kind of type thing. And then I'll make a handful of recommendations. And so that's kind of the way I'm building the tool out, to be kind of like a research tool so you can recommend themes. Other theme shops are using it to keep track of what other themes are doing because we're tracking pricing and all this other stuff. And so now there's performance data. So as far as like who it's used for, that's kind of what I feel like figuring out a lot of times. And that's why like I'm looking at app devs being like, oh, like I think there's some interesting things to be done there for supporting that gap of like, we're trying to figure out what the theme is so that way we can run our own custom logic against it. Or instances where, we know this theme is supported out of the box and we don't need to do extra when there is. Maybe we can trigger an email that says, hey, like you're running a theme that isn't natively supported. Let's get ahead of that. And here's the custom implementation you might have to try, kind of type thing. So that would be the idea, is helping probably app devs do that. Try to, like I said, bridge that gap. Kind of the way that I'm starting to move. So agencies and then app devs and stuff like that. So
you should really advertise on something that speaks to other developers. I bet the developer community would really like to know about this. If there was like a newsletter or podcast, some kind of platform, you could get the word out to these folks about.
I do know someone who runs a pretty popular newsletter.
I'd like to talk to that person sometime. No, that's great. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think we mainly hear about and focus on merchant and customer-facing problems in terms of the problems that we're looking to solve. But I think there's a lot of developer problems too, and I think it's also a very good and lucrative market to consider focusing on. So I hope it goes really well. I think you should keep plugging away at it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it for a while still yet. So I feel like I'm probably investing too much time in it at the moment for my one paid user. But I also I unfortunately give away like a lot too. I'm really bad at making money from stuff when it's like a lot of friends. They're like, they've made suggestions, and so I'm like, hey, like you made a really helpful suggestion before. Here's a free account.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
A lot of people like that. So that's my own fault.
When Shopify takes your and I's suggestion from today to make like that beta feature in the store, like we told them to a few minutes ago, they're not going to give it to us for free, Taylor. They're just going to say thanks for the idea and run with it. So you don't need to do
great job, guys. Good job. Yeah. So, which is fine. Like I just run with the ideas. I'm totally fine with that. We don't need that. Just do the things.
Well, if they want to kick in a few extra cookies or a private flight to the next editions, that's fine too.
A private flight to the next editions. Yeah.
With cookies on the plane.
With cookies on the plane.
Yeah.
I'll do it without the cookies. I don't need the private flight either. I'll fly coach. I'm fine with that.
Okay. I'll take Taylor's ticket.
Karl, take. I don't know. Yeah, after the last time that when I had a layover or whatever, I could have just drove there faster. It'll be fun. Tour bus. Think about it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Big old tour bus. We pick up some other devs on the way. Dylan is on the way. He's up in Cleveland. So,
I still think my boat idea has wings.
Well, your boat idea is great. I just, I'm concerned about the practicality of it all. That's all.
I'm not going to argue with you because you're right, but
so I'm interested in some of the other things that you had in here because I mentioned AI, and I'm using AI quite heavily with Shop Info and all this other stuff and what have you. But you had a note in here about billing in an AI driven world. I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that struck me today. Like, typically, historically, if someone approaches me for work, it'll either be a project price, like it's a big scope of work, right? So I usually do like a paid discovery because I've learned not do that. So, okay, a couple $100 or whatever it is, like I'll take the time to really think through this problem. I'll give you a document that outlines exactly how to tackle this problem. You can use it with me or take it somewhere else. I don't care. You'll paid for it. It's yours. But at least we'll know where we stand. So that's one way to approach it, right? And other way would be like to do hourly, where you just like, even if it's like a day rate, which is better sometimes than hourly. The thing I'm getting into now is like, okay, if I'm utilizing AI, does that model start to break down? Because what once could have taken me an hour to 2 hours, I'm now doing in 15 minutes or half an hour sometimes, right? Like that's obviously very case by case in terms of what the AI helps with and what it doesn't help with.
Yeah.
But it made me realize like I don't want to do, it doesn't seem good to me to have a kind of work where like you're bringing me what used to be an hour's worth of work. It's taking me 15 minutes and I'm charging you for 15 minutes. That just doesn't seem sustainable long term because you don't know going into it if it's one of those 15-minute problems or 2-hour problems. But it also doesn't feel good to like, how do you estimate what you're going to charge then? If it's like, well, this might take me, I might do this over lunch or it might take me all day. I don't know. It depends on of AI answers.
Mm-hmm. You
Anyways,
have thoughts on this, or this is a discussion of like, I'm struggling with this, and I don't know, because I have thoughts on this.
Yeah. Let's hear you, Taylor. You have lots
on
a lot of things. Yeah. Okay.
That's I always have lots of thoughts. They're not necessarily good thoughts. They're just, there's thoughts. So
I don't pay you to come on the podcast to not speak, so please.
Well, that's you can double my salary for so okay, so that's what we're talking about here is like in a traditional like hours for money, right? Kind of type service or whatever, like, you're getting X amount of hours kind of type thing. And then this is this idea of like moving away from hourly billing, which project-based billing realistically is hourly billing as well. Like, we can get that out of the way. Most every billing model that we talk about has to involve some element of time. And so there's a cost there. I think the goal or the holy grail of services, in my opinion, or whatever, is value-based billing, right? It's this idea or concept of, I'm going to give you this solution, right? And it might only take me 15 minutes, but I know that this solution is a problem that will save you X amount of money. So I'm going to charge you a fraction of that X amount of money is really what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the time it takes me, because the time it takes me, whether it's 15 minutes or it's 2 or 3 hours, is incomparable compared to the value that you're going to get out of this kind of type thing. Because regardless of whether or not I spend 15 minutes or 2 hours, this problem is still has this dollar figure for you on it kind of type thing. So that's where you kind of like come into that interplay of, trying to figure out, and I think this comes with like more expertise and understanding of not only like the problem itself, but like the merchant too. Like, and so this is where for me, at least historically, like you have to do a lot of research. Like you have to know, like about how much the merchant is making, like how big a problem this is to where like the cost actually makes sense. And so I think there's two different ways to go about this when it comes to this value-based billing perspective. You can either do all that research and you come up with like X, Y, and Z problems kind of type thing or what have you. Or you just have like a fixed cost, like I currently do with a monthly subscription model now my monthly subscription model is tied to you get X amount of hours per month kind of type thing, but really it's about like, we're going to be like moving the needle forward kind of type thing on projects or whatever kind of type thing. You're paying X amount a month for access to a developer who can handle those problems. And so I think that that's the goal. The goal eventually for me is to get more towards that value-based billing and away from this idea or concept of like my hours are tied to this value amount kind of type thing. And so in an AI-driven world, right, where you're solving these problems and they're exceedingly complex and you're able to like fix these, I think your expertise is more so the thing that you're charging for. So there's that old anecdote of, the guy that comes in to fix the boiler or whatever, and he pulls out a hammer and he hits the hammer in one spot, and it fixes it or whatever kind of type thing. And says it's like $15,000. And the guy says, well, what the heck? Like, you were only out here for 15 minutes. Why am I paying you $15,000? Like, I need an invoice for this or whatever. And so he gives him an invoice and it's like, $100 or whatever for like minimum cost for time. And then the $14,900 is for like knowing where to hit the hammer kind of type thing. And so you're paying for that. You could pay somebody else other than you who doesn't have that expertise, and it might take them 10 hours, and then they're going to charge the client, maybe 4 times what you would charge compared to your 15 minutes of time. So the idea would be, I think, moving more towards this concept that you're the expert and they're paying for your expertise more so than they're paying for like dollars per hour.
And I agree with all of that. Value-based pricing, I think, is the right play, especially for a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe there's some contexts where it's hard. Like, for example, the one that really got me thinking about this was one where every once in a while I'll get some requests to make some minor changes to a site. Like, how do you add value-based pricing to that? It was so much easier in the past where you could just kind of base it on how I know this is going to take me so much time. I know what my rate is, so I'll just kind of use that as a peg, figure out what to charge for that. And even yourself, like you shared, you do your subscription thing, but you do link it back to a perception of hours right now, right?
Yes, so I do.
It's tough.
So with what you're talking about, I think that's a good model for this, like this idea of access. So personally, because it's not really sustainable as a freelancer, even when you're very good at what you do, to do this, like hopping in and out of like multiple projects at a time for like 2 hours here, 3 hours there, or whatever. And so there's this idea of now I have this option where because I used to do this hourly thing too. And I have like 1 or 2 people that I do hourly for as a favor to another dev, kind of type situation from a legacy perspective. But anybody else, it is more like I pay like the minimum amount of time I have to jump in is this much. And so like your problem might only take me 15 minutes. Give me more problems in the month to do or what have you. But this is the minimum that I charge. I can tell you that I'll still have plenty of time to work on other things, but because of like access, here's that is, when you have that like relationship or trust or whatever built up with a particular longstanding client, I always throw out there, like, if that doesn't work for you, here's a list of other people that you can call or like reach out to them. These are good developers. I'll try to do a referral kind of type thing. And so that's where SDA comes into play like really well too. When I can make a referral there, it's always great. But a lot of times people will just say like, we've worked with you. We know how you work. We don't want to work with somebody else. So that's what we're going to do. Like we'll pay like your minimum and we'll come up with some other stuff for you to do in the month, or just the problem is worth solving for X amount of money. So we're happy with that.
Yeah. Well, that's good to think about. Lots more to discuss there, I'm sure. Appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, lots more. Kudos to you. I've never got the paid discovery thing to work personally. So I'm glad that you're at the stage at least that you can get that to rock and roll.
Oh, that was a long time ago I started doing that because
yeah.
First of all, it's kind of a litmus test, right? To kind of feel out the client.
Yes,
like, do they see the value in working with me, or is it more like I want the lowest price possible? And then 2, it really helped to come from a place of confidence with the estimate.
Yeah.
And clearly there's maybe circumstances where you can't do this. Like if you don't have business and you need the work, maybe you shouldn't do that. I don't know, because it could scare off some of it, right? But it's just a much better way to approach it. I think everyone's much happier.
Yeah. And people always ask about this with like, anytime you're going to change rates, all this other stuff or what have you, change how you do billing or whatever. I think like that's a good point to throw out there as well. Like, don't try something new with an existing client if you're not busy. Like, there's definitely that period of time where you're going to have to slog through a little bit of, I just need to make sure bills are getting paid and on all this other stuff and what have you kind of type thing. But if you keep at it for long enough, you'll get to that point. And that's always been the best advice that I've followed is, change your rates, change your billing structures or whatever, like when you're busy and you're okay with people saying no. So anytime that I've upped my rate, anytime that I've changed how I'm doing from hourly to project based to, I used to do these intensive days to now I just do subscriptions for everybody kind of type thing. I always waited until I'm busy. I can't get to anything for another month anyways, at least. And so every new client that comes on board is like, this is just how I do business. And then you get enough people doing that long enough, you can upgrade the existing clients that you have on regular work as well. And, again, like you have that trust and that everything that's been established there kind of type thing. They're used to working with you in those processes. As long as it's not, absurd, they're going to be fine with it, with changing how they do that. And so that's worked out really well for me historically as well. So I'm sure that's probably a similar thing that you'd recommend too, whether you're talking about using AI or not.
Well, you shouldn't assume what I would recommend, but yeah, I think you're spot on in this case. Speaking of assumptions, I think we went into this time together thinking we would be able to talk through everything we had in our list, but I'm seeing now that we're getting close to the hour mark, and you still got some big topics on there. Is there anything else you want to cover before the changelog, or something you want to save for next time?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a good topic, so I don't think we needed to like dissuade. I always throw more in there than we actually need because my assumption is, if we do hit a spell of like we talked a bit about the personal stuff, we probably could have got to this really quick and cranked out some of this stuff or whatever. I was really interested to hear about building the wall though too. So
I didn't even give you that much detail. We'll have a special
I'm gonna have to bother
episode.
You about this later.
You're wondering, how did he anchor the bottom plate to the concrete floor? What did he use? How did he figure out what was plumb? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious about all these things. So I'm looking at having to create or dig out a part underneath my deck. We were looking at exploring this and like building like a retaining wall and all this other stuff or whatever. So I know you've got ideas, and I'll definitely I won't bore. Yes, yeah, I won't bore our listeners with that part, all 2 of them, or anything like that. But no, I think this is it's not a bad spot to like break on or get back into Shopify, right? So we talked about all the things that we really needed to hit.
Gotcha. Well, we have been talking about Shopify, in my opinion, but I guess what I'm asking is, do you want to go to this changelog now, or do you want to talk about either, you have a couple things on here on your list that were interesting that we did not touch on yet, that I won't mention by name in case we don't touch on them, but they all look really good to me.
No, it's okay. We can move on to the changelog. We're getting close to that hour mark, so we don't need to. We can talk a little bit about the changelog. Maybe we can do some more back and forth. Maybe that will keep you awake.
Oh yeah, I'll try. I brought some toast just in case I need something.
I'm
to
sure you
snack on
have to be concerned about. So in the changelog, the big news of our time, of our Shopify dev generation, Karl. Okay.
Yeah.
The product variant lift. Like
I know
we're now at 2K plus. It is this glorious thing that people have pined after for a long time. There's still some caveats, obviously, as far as that goes, kind of type thing. But we're here. This is bigger than Online Store 2.0. Sections everywhere because this impacts everybody. So, what are your thoughts? Did you weep at your desk when you read the changelog announcements, or?
Here's my gut reaction. It's a brave new world. I hope we like the world that we've now begged for, that they've given us. It could be a little insane. We'll see.
So I would agree. I think this is going to be one of those things where people start going wild with variants. They realize that this is just too much, and then they start paring back. So I will say, I don't think it's as big a deal as most people really think that it's going to be. I think that it's going to create its own set of problems. Ultimately, 2,000 plus variants won't be enough for some people. The fact that you can still only do 3 options is a thing. The groundwork's been laid for more options, but you're still limited in spite of the fact that we now have the 2K plus variants. Yeah. You're still limited to 3 options. And so I think that was a thing that people really, really want. So we are here at 2K plus, like more than 100, like let's just call it that. But I think the thing that people are really after is some additional options here. So, time will tell as far as that goes, kind of type thing. I think it is very exciting just because it's a new chapter of Shopify dev. But I think that's still going to be a thing where we seek to simplify. I think things just kind of swing back and forth on a pendulum. We're going to swing complex, and then we're going to move right back to trying to make things simple again. So be interesting.
I think what's interesting too is it was fun to see Toby post about some of the background work that went into that, and including like how some of his own early contributions were in the way of making this a reality and had to be worked on and that kind of thing. But it also raises the question of like how many apps and themes out there have made assumptions around the upper limit on variance size that might now suddenly find themselves in situations where there might be performance issues or other types of breakage. Although I highly doubt like every store is going to run out there and start adding variants, but it'll be interesting because we didn't make any changes. Like no one saw this coming. Well, that's not true. We kind of saw it coming, but not.
Well, no they've been talking about it for so long, right?
And so we're all kind of like, oh, I hope it works.
Right? They didn't even, they've done kind of this like, oh, like I don't even know if a lot of themes support it yet. So it's like, oh, great, like, but now your theme doesn't support it, so it doesn't even matter. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this rolls out for some people. I've got some folks where we've wanted something, we've done a lot of changes around how it's presented on the theme with like meta objects and stuff like this or what have you to kind of get over that variant limit, link like products together kind of type thing. So we'll see. I don't know. I feel like it's still going to be a thing. So, but yeah, big deal as far as that goes. If you hear about that, whether you're a theme dev, someone providing services, or an app dev, if you have not heard yet, which is wild if you haven't heard by the time this podcast comes out, because this will be weeks after.
Well, plus it's coming out in the newsletter, which everybody reads, so they'll have read it.
Yes, obviously. So maybe they skip over it, that part. Maybe there's something just even more tantalizing in all the amazing resources that you drop that they totally skip over that, That's my assumption, We don't read a lot of times, we skim. So, if you're not looking for it, you don't know.
What's the next item on your list, Taylor?
The next item would be there is a so this is an action required. There's been an update to the visible to storefront API field on meta object field definitions. So it's deprecated. So if you have been using it, stop it. It's not going to work for you, kind of type thing here. And so go ahead and make sure to check that out. storefront. Accessibility of meta objects can be configured on the meta object definition via the access input field. So go ahead and make sure that you're using the proper things there. Will be deprecated with January 2026 admin GraphQL version. So
no comment.
Be aware. No comment at all. Okay, so using the meta objects is a good thing. Have you used the new standard definition meta objects yet? Like that are available through the new dev dashboard? I'm just curious. It's so new. Okay, so don't worry about it. So new.
Appreciate that.
So new. So the next item in the changelog, Shop Minis SDK early access. Shop Minis is just one of those things that's been very interesting. They had an early access program before that was really early access, but not actually early access. It was like an invite only kind of type thing, even though they let people apply. So I don't know. I think it's just interesting for people when they're looking at this or whatever. Shop Minis, I think, is a cool field to explore kind of type thing, but time will tell whether or not it actually is something that we end up using a lot. So I like the Shop app. I don't know if you've used it personally, Karl. But the idea of having just some extra customizable functionality there, or for people providing services, being able to, provide some support there or whatever is a cool thing. So I would check it out. And lastly, this is a big thing too for those of you who are big into point of sale. So subscription selling plans now are supported with the POS UI extensions. So before, that was not supported, not available to do subs that way, but now because selling plans are now available through those UI checkout extensions, or not UI checkout extensions, I'm sorry, the POS UI extensions, it now supports subscriptions that way as well. So definitely check that out. It is something that you have to be aware of for compatibility as well. You need to be using POS UI extensions 2025, October 2025 or later, and then you also have to be using Shopify POS 10.13 and up.
Good to know.
There you go.
Thanks,
Boom.
Taylor. Wow,
that's a changelog.
Short, to the point. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I tried to, I didn't want to overshadow the variant limit. I figured that was I thought about actually just doing that and then not saying anything else, but there were other things in there that were worth it. So
yeah, people come to expect a certain level of loquacity from your changelog edition. So
they do. Yes.
Speaking of which,
thanks for staying awake.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It's time for the third half of our show. Which, you know why I do that, right?
It's the cars
car talk.
Car show.
Yeah.
Car talk. Yeah. I can't remember. I can't remember what it was.
I was explaining this to my son on the way home from the hike the other day. I was like, I tried to work in some elements just as homage to a show that greatly inspired me and I enjoyed a lot. And that was one of the things I kind of work in. He's like, does anybody understand it? Like, probably not, son. Probably not.
Does anybody get the reference?
Karl's an idiot. Anyway, it's time for Picks of the Week. All right, I'll go first because I'm the host. It's another book this week. I had some food, but I'm going to go with the book. This is The Watchmaker's Daughter by Larry Loftis. He's written other books as well. It's kind of blurry. There we go.
It was great that it actually seemed like it worked there where it wouldn't clear for a second because it was focusing on your hand. That's awesome.
This is a story
Watchmaker's Daughter, okay.
Corrie ten Boom and the ten Boom family. And folks, during World War II, they lived in Holland and hit a bunch of folks, Jewish people and non-Jewish people. And I was familiar roughly with the story. I like World War II history, but I hadn't read it in depth. And I'm sure there's many books that have been written about her and what happened. But this one I thought was really well written in the sense of it did a great job of combining the nonfiction documentary truth aspects of what was going on, but in a compelling, reads like a story kind of way, which I appreciated. So,
yeah.
If you're feeling, what's the right word? If you need help remembering how good we have it in the face of some of the challenges that we're currently facing in our nation and in our world, it's good to reread stories about history like that to remember we are very fortunate to live in the time and the place that we do, and also to be very cognizant of the risks that come and just be aware. So it was a good read, but challenging to think about.
Yeah. No, that's good pick, man. Nice.
Thanks. I'm an intellectual.
Yeah. You are. Well, I'm gonna be a moderate intellectual here and recommend a book series.
Oh, good for you.
Yes. I don't know. Probably everyone has read it except for me at this point. So I read the Harry Potter series.
I've never heard of Harry Potter before. Tell me more about
it. Really? So it's this book. I've never seen the movies. I've never done anything. But
what?
My daughter.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So when I grew up in a very conservative household, as we've talked about before, and so witchcraft and wizardry, no, like absolutely not. Like you can't watch that. And so as I've gotten older and learned that the book is a work of fiction and not an attempt at nonfiction being asserted there, well, my daughter's classroom this year is like themed like with Harry Potter, and so I read the book to kind of understand a little bit more about that. First book was great, so I kept reading or whatever, and I found it very good. I was like really invested in the story.
Wait, this is really your pick? The Harry Potter series?
It's really my pick, the Harry Potter series. Yeah, absolutely. I thought they were great. So
they are great. Everyone knows this.
I was really disappointed though too. Well, everyone doesn't know that. Now I know that. Everybody does know it now apparently. So I'm late to the party. Anyways, even if you're an adult and you've never touched the Harry Potter series, it's a very engaging read. I found myself very attached to the story, very very intrigued. But I was really disappointed, Karl, I will say. And I even quoted Harry Potter in SDA in a response that you had, and nobody latched on to my quote. I thought it was a great quote. I thought it was perfectly timed. I thought some fellow nerds would jump in with me and a rounding chorus of applause and no, that did not happen. It was just
you responded to me.
Okay.
Yes. I'll have to find that response. I would have gotten it and I would have said something. So
anyways,
I'm sorry, Taylor.
But yeah, so that's my pick, Karl. It's the Harry Potter series. They were great.
So
read them on the Kindle. It was awesome.
Are you going to go as Harry Potter for Halloween?
No, I don't dress up for Halloween. Do you dress up for Halloween?
I think you should. A middle-aged man discovers something everyone knew for the past 25 years.
No, my kids always ask me to dress up for Halloween, and that was another thing I did not do as a child, that I don't really get dressing up in general or whatever. So I'm like,
I used to.
I wore a cowboy hat or something once.
I kind of peaked. My last two costumes were, one was a Starfleet officer, and then the next year was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And after that, it's like, where do you go? Nowhere else to go.
Where do you go?
Yeah, so.
Harry Potter, apparently.
Witchcraft. No thanks. Anyway, well, good for you. So did you say you have or have not actually watched the movies yet?
No, I haven't seen any of the movies yet, so that apparently is
my
next step. Well,
a whole winter to look forward to something fun to slowly.
You know how that is, though? The book is almost always better than the movie. Like, are the movies actually decent? Like, are they worth watching?
Well, if anyone does watch this show, we'll know now because they're bound to leave comments. But
they're at the very end here.
My take on it is, no, I mean, they'll be leave comments by Harry Potter. They don't care about anything else.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
I liked them. The second movie's a disappointment. So enjoy the first movie. It's simple. It's definitely geared towards a younger audience. Endure the second movie and then enjoy the rest of them. But they do get a little dark.
Oh, really? Wow.
So
okay. So they what now?
Get a little dark near the end.
Ooh.
As the books get dark, like the movies, definitely the tone gets darker too. So I wouldn't necessarily have your young kids watch more than the first or second movie at this point.
Good to know. Okay.
As they get older, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. I'll have to give them a gander there.
Yeah. A lot of death. Danger.
Well, I mean, that lines up with the books. So yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it's coming. I'm just saying, like, it's one thing to read it, it's another thing to...
Well, good. So does it like actually stick kind of to the storyline, or they take a lot of creative liberties?
I'm not a Harry Potter scholar, Taylor. This is all like a chapter of my life that happened years ago. I don't have this.
That's fair.
So
okay.
I think they were fairly straight on, but it's like asking me, do the Lord of the Rings books and movies merge? Well, no, but I can't remember how, and I don't know which one is true anymore. So
yeah. Okay.
So you got me going now.
I'll be watching them. Maybe the movies will be my next pick in the future here. But
I'm just excited for you because it's a good experience overall, and you are untouched in this way and have this whole thing to look forward to. So good for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, well, okay.
Anyway,
I think
now that our Harry Potter segment's over,
you have wasted another perfectly good hour listening to Taylor discover popular culture. We appreciate you being here. I look forward to talking to you the next one. We'll see you next time. Happy hacking.
See ya.